And by getting rid of this, this just means that a larger workforce will be used, but it's now being used for brownie points and for people to clap and say, yay, that means now I get to be exploited. Trump just revoked and upturned the Equal Opportunity Act of 1965. That is crazy. That is crazy. To understand how crazy that is, this just means that people who need jobs will now more likely be discriminated against within this country. They will also now be unfairly prejudiced against because they don't have a job, and obviously within the zeitgeist and hegemony within this country of having to have a job to have any sort of human value. And also the idea that this is somehow restoring merit-based opportunity, which is an exact term labeled within this within this fucking page long act, right? There's one part on this particularly that I want to bring up of what it talks about, and that is where it talks about straight up DEI, right? Saying that it threatens the safety of American men, women, and children across the nation by diminishing the importance of individual merit, aptitude, hard work, and determination when selecting people for jobs and service in key sectors of American society, including all levels of government, the medical, aviation, and law enforcement communities. Now, notice here how many of these within the past few years have all been attacked by the right for having some form of person of color within those communities. You can look to the hijabi that was within the aviation community and was a pilot. And then you can also obviously see things like certain teachers or women in certain fields and the like. But you can clearly tell by the language of this that it is not particularly based on gender. It is particularly based on what is labeled as merit, aptitude, and hard work. Despite the fact that the whole point behind DEI is the fact that it is about diversity and inclusivity within allowing to be pooled in job pools, right? Whenever somebody says DEI hires more people from different ethnicities and marginalized communities, it is not because of these aspects of them that they are hired. I will say first up out front that yes, absolutely, people are hired because of how they look. That is just a part of neoliberalism. Not neoliberalism, but liberalism, right? That is just a part of the whole, like, knight shining armor, white knighting, all this other, like, platitudes and niceties, right? They will just say that they hire a lot of black people, but not actually give a fuck, right? Because it's just to meet a quota, right? And a lot of people don't understand that. Well, right people don't understand that, right? And white people don't understand that, right? They don't understand that whenever this happens, this is not because they're trying to fucking erase white people or whatever bullshit they want to say. This is purely because they are trying to get more brownie points within the proletariat to try and have more people come and work for them. Hey, we're inclusive. Come work for us. Come rent out your time and your autonomy to us for shit pay. But hey, at least we hire black people, right? And moving back to DEI, the reason why this is not just a revocation and like under the false pretext of, oh, we're trying to make sure that people are hired on merit, right? It is very clearly trying to stop certain people from getting into the workforce, right? And then having them be marginalized into the margin lines, right? A lot of times that means poor people and the likes, people with criminal records and maybe mental illnesses, and of course specific races, right? Any of these can kind of be mediated if they fall within, say, the middle class, or within higher low class, or the likes, or they have certain characteristics about them that can benefit them, instead of just having like strikes on their record to be like, oh, you're both, oh, I don't know, you're trans, oh, you're also gay because you said something once at work, oh, you're brown, right? You came from fucking Mexico, and oh, then what else? You're disabled, you're in a wheelchair, right? All of these are fucking home runs for diversity, where people would either hire them for this, or, and the actual reason why DEI exists is because they understand that you still have a skill set and will allow you to be within the workforce anyway, only to be then used and exploited and all this other shit, despite that fact, and given no sort of welfare with your disabilities in mind, and or certain things about you that need to be addressed. But yeah, again, this is kind of textbook neoliberalism. It is the idea of giving concessions to the proletariat, and is then now being taken away. And this time it has a conservative, fucking fascist coat of paint put over it, because it's like now like labeled with like, we can't have diversity, we have to have this and all this other shit, right? And it should also be made clear that when it comes to DEI, if you can, like, as I've already said, like be beneficial to the workforce in any way, any of these can kind of be overcome, but you're going to be very much put at disadvantage. And it is definitely going to be the elevation of white Americans within this country. You will see within the next 4 years, and all of these legislations being put forth, that white Americans will be the group that is going to be elevated the most. They will be the people saying that people are being helped the most by Trump's administration, because the middle class is the best hope for Trump in terms of a citizen population, because low class don't benefit from billionaires, right? They don't benefit in any ways of like from petite bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie, and anything else, right? And especially not impoverished neighborhoods. There's another part of this that I need to talk about, and this is verbatim. Section 2, policy. It is the policy of the United States to protect the civil rights of Americans and promote individual initiative, excellence, and hard work. I therefore order all executive departments and agencies to terminate all discriminatory and illegal preferences, mandates, policies, programs, activities, guidance, regulations, enforcement actions, consent orders, and requirements. I further order all agencies to enforce our long-standing civil rights laws, to combat illegal private sector DEI preferences, mandates, policies, programs, and activities. This is very, very blatantly in the exact same language of being discriminatory and having this idea of like, of the fact that certain sectors are stealing white jobs or other things along those lines, or the jobs of the middle class, or the jobs of hardworking Americans, right? And some will say, oh, this is a good thing because it stops like immigrants from having and like taking our jobs, despite the fact that there was nothing in the first place saying that you couldn't have those jobs, except for the facts that your labor wasn't as cheap as theirs, right? This is not a preference of loving immigrants and the like and hating America. This is a matter of capitalism and being more efficient within itself by using cheaper labor. And by getting rid of this, this just means that a larger workforce will be used, but it's now being used for brownie points and for people to clap and say, yay, that means now I get to be exploited. Right? That's exactly what's going on here. Like, right now, this is textbook neoliberalism, right? Instead of just using things like cheap labor, now it's going to be mandated that everybody is now used for labor, right? And now everybody is going to be able to be slaves of corporations and privatized sectors under Donald Trump.